Paul Citro,
Nick Hayes.
welcome to the show.
Thank you.
We're glad you're here. This is a special occasion, a celebration of sorts,
Yeah.
because tomorrow is a big day for you.
It's my last day here.
It's your last day as an employee of Cumberland Heights.
Yes.
Which is, you've been working here for how long?
40 plus years. Right.
Yeah.
It's insane.
You've seen a thing or two.
Yeah. Well, most definitely. I was telling somebody today that the first spiritual service in this new building was because it wasn't ready. The chapel wasn't ready, but there was a skunk in the small chapel on that Sunday morning. And so they had to move it early to the big chapel. They didn't have a piano in there, so there was some guy who played the guitar for church music.
Interesting. So was there still, they still needed to paint? It was still under construction, or was it almost done and they just...
It was close, but
Yeah.
it was not ready.
Yeah.
It was not ready, but it was ready that day.
So 40 years is a long time, Paul. Your service is impeccable. Your impact, truly, and that's not just me saying this. I have no reason to fluff your pillows today, but
Yeah.
you've helped thousands of lives and helped build Cumberland Heights into what it is today. There's no doubt about that. Was that the beginning of your relationship with Cumberland as an employee?
No, I was a patient.
Okay.
I was a patient in 81, and my sponsor, who I was out there doing the deal and going to meetings, and my sponsor was a EAP for TVA.
God,
And
okay.
he was buddies. He was buddies with the business manager, who Harold Gilliland, and Harold, the driver, quit, and Harold was all set to go on vacation to Florida, but couldn't go without a driver. So Harold asked my sponsor, said, "Is Paul doing okay?" And he said, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, would he be interested in coming to work out here?" And Bob James posed that question to me, and I said, "Of course." And so, yeah, it was a kind of a natural evolution. I never veered too far from Cumberland Heights, I guess. Patient, and then stayed sober a year. And
Okay, that's what I was going to ask. So it was about a year afterwards that you started, sounds like driving vans?
driving patients, driving patients to meetings, going on business office runs. The job was a driver, which I think now is a clinical associate.
Right.
Yeah.
So jack of all trades, something needs to be done, a patient needs to be tracked down.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Take the trash out. And
Roll call,
facilitating a lot of in-house meetings, showing videos.
Yeah. So what program were you working in the 80s? Was it the men's program broadly? Is that what it was known as?
Well, they didn't really have separate programs so much. So it was, we didn't have an adolescent program. We didn't have a young men's program. The men and women were together, although they did.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, they did some groups separately, but they were together. So
They didn't live together in the same area.
No.
Yeah, they were separated. Yeah.
Separate cabins.
Yeah. Were they in 300 and 400? Where were they?
Yeah, like what we call now Grace Place.
Yeah.
That was the ladies' area.
Okay.
And it was, and then the guys had these two cabins down here.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's pre-FLC, just in terms of people. We might even show a graphic. Is that also predate? Obviously, Hazel Hawkins wasn't there, which is where women's are today. And what about Templeton? Was Templeton not?
No, Templeton wasn't there.
Okay.
The actual dining room back then was where the group rooms are, where the men's group rooms are.
Really?
Yeah, they just kind of chopped that up and made group rooms, but that was the dining room. So it was a smaller place for sure.
Because we had the two cabins. You had Crichton. You had the dining room.
We didn't have that dining room that we're in now. That's kind of a newer addition.
Oh, so what dining room are you referring to?
Well, it's you know, where the group rooms are, where the men's counselors have office.
In Crichton?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
That was the dining room.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, that building's had a lot of iterations, I guess.
And I know, too, that before we had William Anderson built out, the kind of call center area was medical?
Yeah, I mean, there was a little sort of businessy couple of offices there.
Right.
So, and then periodically, this guy that hired me, Harold Gilliland, was from Knoxville area, and he moved in a couple of trailers from the there was it the World's Fair in Knoxville?
Okay.
And these trailers were part of that. He bought those, had them moved down here, and then that became a business office, I don't know, somewhere in a field close to everything else.
Next to the primary parking lot there, I think that there's still some conduit sticking out of the ground from where those used to be. There's some of the business office activity. Yeah. So let me ask you a question. So 1981, you started working here. Or no, you were a patient in 1981.
Right.
So you started working here 82, 83.
Yeah.
Ish. What has changed about Cumberland Heights? What do you remember about the culture and the program, the people and the patients in the 1980s?
Yeah, you know, of course the facilities.
Sure.
That's easy.
Yeah.
There's been so many upgrades and all that. The culture, you know, this was always kind of known as a great place to come get treatment. 12-step philosophy, just good people. It was, and there really wasn't that much in Nashville. I've learned since that I think the Samaritan Center was going before us.
Right.
But that was kind of it as far as 12-step
treatment
model.
options. Yeah.
Treatment options. So Cumberland Heights always kind of, and not being associated with a big company, you know, a big hospital chain or something. So Cumberland Heights has always felt like a good, safe, you know, dependable place. That's not changed. We've just gotten a lot bigger, you know, you know, and there's a time and place for everything. Back then, it was a time and place where you didn't necessarily need to have a whole lot of credentials to work here.
Right.
You had to be a recovering person, and if you were a late act, that was great, which is still great. Yet we have so much more professional staff now. So,
right.
You know, that certainly changed a lot. But I was talking to Jeannie Laurent last week, and she told me that I was a driver when she was a patient here, but she ended up being the director of the program and my boss for a while. And she came out a couple of weeks ago and she said, you know what, Cumberland Heights hadn't really changed at all, which I thought was a great compliment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, I would interpret that as a compliment.
Oh,
not a negative, that we're celebrating the tradition of how we were founded, which is really grounded in 12-step culture, and also investing in the future in terms of being able to meet patients where they are with their acuity and the requirements that I think make us a better program from the state and our accrediting bodies in terms of a more professional workforce and evidence-based practices, and how we do treatment in 2023 is different. You know, it certainly has changed, but the spirit of Cumberland Heights, I think, remains strong, which is really grounded in community. Yeah,
I think Cumberland Heights is, even back then, has always kind of felt like it was trying to keep up and meet the demands of just sort of the changes. And so we've always tried to be professional, even though we were founded and sort of based in the 12-step philosophy. But I just forgot what I was going to say.
So let me ask you a different question.
Yeah.
So what came after the driver CA position for you?
Recreational counselor.
Okay.
And then, yeah. And so I kind of followed Steve Mills around. Steve Mills was the rec counselor who got pulled to be the float counselor. So I became the rec counselor. And then Steve went from a float counselor to full-time counselor. And then I became the float counselor. In this whole time, I was working on my LADAC and all that stuff. And this is, over a period of years. But, so
you went rec counselor, float counselor, I think maybe in the men's program.
Yeah. I think some of the counselors wanted to go on vacation. There was nobody there except for the rec counselor who was working on his LADAC, and they were like, "What about Paul? He can cover my group." So, then counselor in the men's program, and then the adolescent program opened up in
'85, right? Around there,
86, yeah. So, at some point after that, I moved over there and worked with adolescents.
That's when you started brushing shoulders, I think, with Randall Lee, who still works here. He was in that program. Is that correct?
Yeah, Randall's like me. He's done a lot of different things, but he might have been the aftercare person for the adolescent program. He eventually became the director of that program,
right?
In the other adult treatment program. So and just great. It worked with some great people all along. Randall Lee, Wyatt Webb, Byron Metcalf, David Osinga, of course Jeannie, Guy Freeman, and now been fortunate enough to work with Cindy Stewart Freeman. So so I've had a lot of mentors along the way.
Yeah. It just reminds me. We were actually going through the archive a couple weeks ago, and all the pictures that we have. Some of you, so we might see those on the show, kind of pulled up at different segments. I'm not sure, but some of Randall, Cindy, Guy Freeman, and many others. And it just struck me that any place that's been in business over 50 years is going to have multiple generations of people who have worked here, who have helped build the legacy of Cumberland, who have been a part of the spirit and the fabric of this place that are special. You're one of those people.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about that, but
before the show started, just for everybody listening, we think that, and I know you might push back a little bit, but you might be the longest tenured employee Cumberland Heights has ever had. It's either you or Jim Threadgill.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy to think that Cumberland Heights was like 17 years old or something when it seemed like it'd been here forever.
Right.
When I came here, of course, I was 20-something too, 23 maybe too.
Yeah.
So, it seemed like it had been here forever. It was, it's always been the farm. What's cool is I ran into Rob Crichton last week, who, is just a kind of a solid rock. And so
he certainly has been. Him, his brother, and his dad, a big part of this, obviously.
Yeah.
One of our founding families, and still involved today, to their credit. Still can see them walking around, checking in on things,
right,
making sure that we're headed in the right direction. So, well, what memories do you have? I'm sure you've been reflecting. Are there any special memories over the past 40 years that come to mind when you think about Cumberland, when you think about your experience?
Oh my gosh. It's just too much to even imagine. Part of it's a long time. Part of my time here has been working in outpatient, for 5+ years.
I didn't know that.
Working at the we went in don't know if it's partners, but we went in on a co-occurring unit at the Parthenon Pavilion.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. We provided the addiction counselors, the social workers, and the director was Hank Connor. And they provided the nursing staff, the facility, and of course their psychiatrist admitted people to the unit. And that was back when we thought we couldn't work with co-occurring folks.
Right.
We needed them to get their mental health stuff straightened out and then come back here.
Right.
So
that's fascinating. I had no idea.
Yeah.
When was that?
Well, I can tell you exactly because that was in the early 90s, like 92 to 96. And I'll tell you why I can tell you exactly because I met my wife there. I tell people I met my wife at the psychiatric facility, which is true. We were both working there, though. But and we were married in 96. So,
okay.
And that was probably after a 5-year run there. So, yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
We Cumberland, we kind of bristled at working with folks with co-occurring disorders, really not understanding that we were always working with folks with co-occurring disorders. We just weren't doing it purposefully.
Right.
And intentionally, and we're doing the best we could. But we're treating the same folks. We're just doing it better now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. How have our patients changed? Have they changed?
Probably not. The volume has changed. We're bigger. So it's I don't get to know patients as maybe much as I used to. But I don't really think, I think Cumberland's worked hard on just being more accessible to more people.
I think you're right. Sometimes, so I've been here for 5 years.
Right.
Which is, such a fast 5 years in my life. It seems like I just started here as an employee yesterday. But one of the things I've discovered is sometime there's an assumption in our community that Cumberland Heights, just serves the, folks who experience an alcohol use disorder, right? Alcoholics, as you might consider it, and aren't as aware that we're fully co-occurring capable, and of course treat those patients every single day, 365 days a year in all of our programs. And that although a majority of our patients experience alcohol addiction, it's also opioids, it's stimulants, and everything in between, right?
Yeah.
So it's interesting as we're growing and as we're changing our relationships in the community, as more people learn that, they seem to be surprised, and I think that's probably an area for us to maybe work on and focus on a little bit.
Yeah, those are just some old kind of hangovers from early in our when we were working with patients. We were always known as an alcohol treatment center. Really, if alcohol and drugs, and frankly, early on, if there was too many drugs, we would be a little afraid of that. But we've worked. We work so much better and more intentionally, really for a long time with co-occurring folks now, and everything we do includes, how can we do it better with co-occurring folks? So and I don't know anywhere else, unless somebody needs, they're in danger of hurting themselves or just needs a hospital-based program. I don't know of anywhere else that they could get better treatment.
Yeah,
really.
So, Paul, in your experience, you've got a lot of it, certainly, both, frontline, CA, counselor, and today, administratively, leading clinical teams, being a part of a leadership clinical team. What do you think makes a good treatment program? What do patients need when they come to us? residentially?
Oh, that's a big question. Yeah. Well, I don't know I guess if I knew that, I would go. If that's such a hard question. I mean, we try to adjust what we do all the time to meet the needs of the people who come here. One of the great things about being here is I believe if we thought, okay, there's a better way to do this, we could go to Jay and say, hey, Jay, there's a better way to do this. And he would go, okay, let's do it. He might say, how much does it cost?
Yeah.
Can we reasonably do this? But we've pretty much have the freedom to do whatever we think clinically can be most effective. I think our limitations, well, let's not say our limitations, let's say our assets are being out here in this farm, 177 acres, where, you can come and feel the serenity and the privacy and the to do that hard work that you need to do. So there's just something healing about the environment. And I know there, are other programs that, aren't in this kind of environment that are good programs. But I do think there's something special about this, just the property. And then there's just a lot of goodwill out here. I don't know a better way to put it, but if you're a patient or a family member out here, you're going to feel that, I think, when you come out. So I haven't been around a lot of other programs lately. I used to go around the country to different programs, and I know that I think that's just an important thing that we have here, and that we need to keep thinking about that too, is how we can make this a more welcoming place for people, because it's hard coming to treatment. It's hard when you get to treatment. It's hard doing the work you need to do. So anything that we can do to make it a more pleasant experience, I think we need to do that.
I think you summed it up perfectly. What I heard you say is that, our programs are reflexive to the needs of the patient and the families that are sitting right in front of us, and that, organizationally, there's a freedom to change when change is required. Right. And I would be hesitant and worried if our programs and our culture were rigid and stagnant and only pursued one avenue of intervention, in support of what's happening in someone's life. And I like the word goodwill too. I think that there is a service attitude out here. Almost everybody that you meet, how can I help? Right. What's going on today, and what might you need to get better? That is, I'll tell you, I was here as a patient in 2010. You were here. Yeah. And that's what I experienced. It changed my life. I was never exposed to recovery. I think I saw like a movie or two, that Sandra Bullock movie or whatever, maybe 28 Days or whatever it's called. Like I absolutely knew nothing about. Right. In fact, when meetings were first discussed, I thought they were talking about like business meetings, like literally business meetings. Like I didn't understand that there was a community of people who identified as in recovery, and we gathered in spaces known as meetings.
Yeah, right.
Where you're just, consistent places and consistent times for folks who are suffering from addiction to share experience, strength, and hope. I had no exposure to that. And so, I got to tell you, Paul, the culture that y'all created for someone like me was just a lot of freedom to be who I was. That was really the change, is I didn't feel like I had to hide anymore. I felt this immense identification that perhaps I didn't know was available to me.
Yeah, what a gift, huh? To have people who can just help facilitate that for you, help support you in being who you are and doing the work you need to do. I know that still goes on. I was speaking to Jeff Wilson this morning about a...
Shout out Jeff Wilson, Young Men's director now, which is amazing to see his growth. Yeah.
Yeah, he's had a doozy of a first week.
Has he?
Yeah, he has.
Trial by fire.
Trial by fire. He can handle it with one arm tied behind his back, though. But he was talking about a guy who had a real unique sort of spiritual outlook. And, it got all the way to his desk, and he just said, "What do you think?" And frankly, I had not experienced what he was telling me with patient before. And then...
Is it appropriate to share sort of
no
themes? Okay.
No. The guys, it may may not be, but anyway, I had not experienced it before, and I was a little bit of a naysayer, and but as we got to talking about it, I realized Jeff wanted to let this patient practice his experience, practice this spiritual practice that he believed, and I believed before the conversation was over with, that would help his recovery and wouldn't harm a thing. And but it was just different.
Yeah,
put it that way. So it's really fun to see the staff be creative with the patients, as long as it's going to support their sobriety, their recovery, and not hurt them or anything else. And the other part about that is the guy he was working with was in his 20s and I'm in my 60s, so there's that. So thank goodness there's guys like Jeff who can interpret that for me.
Sure.
It was good stuff.
Well, I think a well-rounded community is a good thing for anybody, So I remember, being in 300 and, I roomed with a fullback from the University of Miami who was an interesting character to say the least, and was surrounded by young people and old people, all different shapes and sizes. And that milieu was special. And to be honest, when I walked in, I thought, I don't know if I can identify, it's so easy to disconnect, and
kind of looking for that, really.
Yeah, exactly.
How I don't identify. And
right.
Yeah.
The spirit of Cumberland Heights can kind of do a number on you in that way. And I hope that, I do agree. I hope I hope we continue to protect that.
I do too. I did the same thing. I came into treatment, and the first meal was lunch. I got my tray and I set it down at a table purposefully where no one else was sitting. And then when I went to get my drink and come back, there was some guy sitting across there, and he had a goofy grin on his face, and he was just trying to make me feel welcome. But I had kept a car key in the pocket of my billfold, a little place there. I thought, I'm out of here. Yeah. It was kind of I didn't think I could identify with anyone here either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how long were you here as a patient? Do you remember?
It was just 30 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember your counselor?
Yeah.
Who?
Mo Holleran.
Uh-huh.
Irish Catholic alcoholic, Ladak, who was just the greatest guy on earth, and we would go in group with the big book, and we'd read a chapter, and everybody would share a story about how they related. And, sometimes we'd all be laughing, sometimes there'd be some tears, but we always, left there kind of feeling connected.
Yeah.
And seeing, just looking at ourselves in a way that wasn't full of shame, and like we came in here with, but was like we were, sick people getting well. So yeah, it was a great experience.
Are there any of your fellow patients that you were in treatment with? Are you in touch with any of them still today?
I'm not. My group was 8 guys from.
Just 8.
Yeah, from Clarksville and Winchester and Alabama and wherever. So I hadn't kept up with them.
Yeah. So tomorrow's your last day, and I don't want to, I don't want to push too hard on tomorrow being the day, or anything like that. But
too late.
What's tomorrow going to be like for you? What are you going to do?
Oh my gosh. I'm here kind of covering for Cindy, who's out celebrating in Boston with her daughter.
Graduating college.
So
or graduate school, rather. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll do that. I'll kind of hold the fort down for Cindy. When I leave here, I got a supervision group with CAs, and I'm going home early. Yeah. So, and I got, I think in anticipation of this, I planned a lot of little activities with family and friends. So I'm going to be pretty busy, and, a lot of retired friends. So they're kind of waiting on me to
get on out of here,
get my fishing license renewed. And
yeah. Well, we won't, we'll let you have your day tomorrow. We'll try not to bother you too much, but
thanks.
Just for those listening, I just want you probably were going to kill me for saying this, but we did, Cumberland Heights honored you in a way at our last board meeting that I thought was really special. I don't even know if some of the team are aware of this, but we actually named the dining room porch after you, Paul, and your legacy and impact. And so, of course, there's many pieces of you that will remain with Cumberland Heights, and one of them we'll be able to see every single day. And congrats, brother. It's well-deserved, Paul.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well-deserved. Yeah. So talk about the future of Cumberland Heights. What do you hope? Where do you hope we go?
Future of Cumberland Heights. I don't really worry that Cumberland Heights is not going to be around in another 50 years. I don't. Cumberland about every 10 years we'll kind of look at Cumberland looks at what it's going on and goes, okay, we need this or we need that, and we need to move everybody out of this building and build 2 new buildings. And I would like to see Cumberland. It's hard to. I don't think it needs to grow necessarily. I think it needs to rest and just do the good work. Yeah. In 10 years, the trees get a little bigger. And just kind of hone what we do. Cumberland Heights is doing just fine. I don't know that it needs anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. It needs to kind of just keep sharpening its tools and doing the good work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And investing in our people. And you mentioned Jeff. I'm thinking about Jeff, someone like Jeff, who,
right.
Experienced Cumberland in a lot of ways, personally and now professionally, and has really grown up, as part of this team, and has now had the opportunity to lead his team. I hope we continue to see more of that. I think that's something special about our culture, is
right.
There's a lot of people that have been a part of this team for a long time, and it creates a healthy milieu,
It does, and just different people from different angles of what we do. Jennifer Sudak, and who's always kind of keeping us in compliance and doing it in a fun way. Vivian and Travis, and just what a great team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some hidden heroes,
Yeah.
Jennifer and quality management,
Just the best.
Andrew Cassidy,
He's the
building
best.
and grounds,
Yeah.
Jimmy Jameson, secure infrastructure,
Stays hidden in his office, working hard. Yeah. He's a rock star.
Emily Polk, these are the people that are that Vivian and Travis and Melissa and many others, all the counselors, they're the ones that hold Cumberland Heights up, day in and day out.
Right. Kay Harris, you don't
Kay Harris,
you don't really see these guys. They're out there doing their deal, but a lot of good folks.
Yeah.
In a lot of years of service. A lot of them have been here a long time too.
Yeah.
So it's a good kind of healthy mix of new and people that have been here longer. So, yeah.
Yeah. So we have an event September 28th, actually. We're calling it Homecoming. And it's the first annual. It's the first one we're doing. We're going to do it annually, and it's going to be for staff alumni. You might not have heard about this yet.
No.
But we're going to bring back as many staff alumni as we can here on campus in September. So I hope we can
sounds fun.
Get you to RSVP. We're going to have, prime rib. And there's so many people that have been touched by Cumberland, and want to bring all of them together in a space that, celebrate what everybody's been able to do. So we'll be in touch with you on that. So, okay, last question for you today, and then I promise we'll let you go.
Right. Let's say one more thing.
Please.
Casey Hyatt, who's our alumni services guy, you could not have picked a better person for that job. So, So anyway,
Casey's a warrior. Alumni services, the picnic, our recovery care advocates, you want to talk about an impact. His team, literally boots on the ground every single day, touching every patient.
Just amazing,
that comes through our doors.
Yeah, and I know Johnny Rosen's kind of right there, sort of keeping an eye on things and working with the alumni too. So anyway.
If there's anybody that's represented the most in our archive, it's you, Johnny Rosen. And always highlighted in several of the pictures. So, so my last question for you, Paul, is just about the patients that, aren't here yet, maybe even the folks that aren't sick yet, but we know that addiction's not going away. We know that lives are still going to be touched, by this horrific disease. And I wonder what you'd say, to the families and to folks who are out there struggling with addiction.
I'd just say don't wait, and you can sit and think about it and contemplate it and try other avenues, but it's just so nice that the stigma is not there like it used to be, and if there's any hesitation, if there's if you have a problem, get help. Don't put it off. Putting it off can be you may not have a second chance. So take some action, do the deal. It's like anything else, any kind of other problem you have. If you put it off, it's just probably going to get worse. And it was so fun. I'm not a big golf fan, but I was watching one of the tournaments, and the guy won the tournament, and they interviewed him, and so what do you have to say? And he said, I'm grateful for my sobriety. I was like, what in the world just happened here? That it's so okay for this guy, who to get up and talk about that. And I just thought that was wonderful.
Yeah.
And how many other people hitting golf balls, or whatever, people that his audience just might have heard that.
Yeah.
And went, wow, maybe I need to look at whatever's going on. So, it's I would say that to people is just don't put it off.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Nick.
Wish you luck.
Thank you.
We love you.
Love you.
And your impact.
Yeah.
And we expect you to be out here. Not too much. I know you want to enjoy your retirement. Don't feel any pressure about that. But it goes without saying. And Paul Citro is always welcome at Cumberland Heights. So we appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.